Welcome, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here again, and I'm excited to get to some of the questions. So, question from Rob Gray, and many of you know that Rob shows up in several of the videos with me, his philosophical fellowship, etc. Rob has his own channel that I want you to consider looking at, where he talks to other people about my work, and I'm very grateful for that. I'm very grateful that Rob is in my life. So thank you so much, Rob. So Rob says, Plotinus in Ennead 161. Wow, I'm so glad you're reading Plotinus. That's amazing. I'm glad people are taking up my proposal that we may be able to come up with a post-nominalistic Neoplatonism that could act as the courtyard for Dialogos, rather than the courtroom of debate. Plotinus mentions scientific understanding as a source of beauty. Now, of course, for Plotinus, science means something different than it does for us. Overlapping, but not identical. It means a deep knowledge of sort of the causal structure of the world, but he's not really invoking our modern notions of mathematical measurement and experimentation. So I've given you the overlap, but don't import, right, the scientific revolution into this. So Plotinus mentions scientific understanding as a source of beauty, but I rarely hear scientists sound like they find their theories beautiful. Instead, often feeling cold and functional, but I wouldn't say joyous or overflowing with beauty. What are some reasons you find science beautiful or virtuous or lovely, if you prefer? Can scientists love the beauty of science as a practice, and what would that look like? Can good science lack beauty, possessing only truth? Thanks. And only saying what others think anyway. You're a beautiful philosopher, scientist person. Thank you, Ray. Thank you, Rob. So let's take the first part. So scientists do invoke, and this is work that goes into, that you can find in the philosophy of science, especially around inference to the best explanation, which is at the core of science. They don't invoke, sometimes they invoke beauty. They'll say, something's beautiful. But they use other terms that are in some sense stand-ins for beauty. A term that's very important is elegant. This is sometimes equated to being parsimonious, but elegant is obviously an aesthetic term. So elegance does come up. Why is elegance important? Because elegance points to that we can do a lot of different things with our theoretical function, or let's just say with our theory. So a theory is highly elegant if it's relatively simple, but it can do a wide variety of things. So, explain a wide variety of many different phenomena. This is why Einstein talked about, how important imagination is, because that ability to zero in on elegant theories is actually something very important. Elegance is part of plausibility. So the two things that make a theory plausible, well, three things. And plausible here doesn't mean highly probable. Plausible means worthy of being taken seriously, worthy of investigating, right, etc. And you need to be able to judge which theories are plausible before you begin to gather the evidence that will tell you which ones are probable. You need an idea of plausibility so you know which are the good alternatives theories that you need to control for in your experiment. You need plausibility because you need something to guide you to determine which of all the logically possible implications you will derive from your data. So plausibility comes before, during, and after our experimental and theoretical investigations. So plausibility is indispensable, irremovable. You can't get rid of it by doing an experiment to establish plausibility, because that experiment will also presuppose plausibility. So we need an aesthetic sense of plausibility. We need a sense of trustworthiness, that we have many different converging sources leading to our proposal. It's called abduction, our proposal of a theoretical entity or function that can explain many different things. But we also need that to be elegant, that function will indeed, the self-same function will explain many different things. It will be highly powerful. So trustworthiness in convergence, elegance in divergence, and then we want to balance between these. So if I'm only explaining a few things, I don't need a lot of trustworthiness. But if I'm going to try and say, E equals mc squared, and look at how it explains these really crazy wide variety of things, the curvature of space, the explosion of atomic bombs, how the sun works, right? Then we better be convinced, and of course that's what Einstein did, that has emerged from many independent lines of investigation, and that Einstein put them together in a way that is both trustworthy and elegant and well balanced between them. So that's how I think beauty really shows up, sometimes in what the scientists say, but very much in what the scientists practice. I find science beautiful precisely because it is a very powerful practice for enacting the integration of the aesthetics of plausibility with, right, and the abduction with deduction and induction in order to come up with a powerful account of the world, and that process of the generation of plausible explanations is also bound up at the self-same time with the overcoming of many sources of self-deception in our cognition. So I find that a very virtuous thing to be doing. I'm reducing self-deception and I'm enhancing the plausibility of my explanations. That means I am being intellectually virtuous and also generating a beauty of intelligibility. Can scientists love the beauty of science as a practice and what that would look like? I think I've sort of indicated what the beauty of science is and how I think we can come to love it. There are more and more people talking about a virtue ethics, a notion applied to epistemology, virtue epistemology, that to know is to engage in a kind of virtue. So apprehending the world well, aspectualizing the world well, explaining the world well, arguing about and justifying your claims well. Can good science lack beauty, possessing only truth? If science is not just generating truth claims, what it's doing is it's generating plausible explanations. Intelligibility, which is what explanations give us, is itself beautiful. We find things more beautiful the more we find, this is Plotinus's argument at least, we find them insightfully intelligible to us. And this is also an argument made completely independent by Ellen Scarry and others, and how beauty prepares us for truth. I've tried to show you that, and how beauty sets us up for the plausibility that is indispensable. And what it does is give us what we can only actually ask for. We can't ask for all truth because all truth is combinatorially explosive. What caused the sinking of the Titanic? It depends. So you can't say everything because it would literally be the entire previous history of the universe. Instead, what you do is you zero in on what's most relevant because it's proportional to what you want to explain. So if you want to know why, right, why it sank at a particular time, that you're going to tell me this is why the Titanic sank. But if you want to know why it sank so slowly, you're right. Why was it a British ship that sank? Like blah, blah. So depending on, listen to my words very carefully, depending on which aspect of the event you want to talk about, you're going to change what you're bringing in as the relevant causal factors that you find most plausible and most proportional to explaining the specific event. The proportionality and the relevance of our causal claims is something that a lot of philosophers of science talk about. I was very lucky when I was a graduate student to study with Stephen Yablo, who made proportionality very important. So notice what we're getting here. We're getting elegance, we're getting aspectuality, we're getting proportionality, we're getting causal relevance. I think you can't pursue propositional truth through science unless you also have a commitment to beauty. Now, Plotinus's understanding of beauty, not ours, which is Han rightfully argues in Saving Beauty, we have reduced to what gratifies us, what he calls the smooth, the easy. That's not what Plotinus means by beauty. So we always are only pursuing causally relevant, explanatorily proportional intelligibility of truth. And I think, like Plotinus, that means that truth and beauty are deeply interwoven together. And this, of course, is an argument also that has been being made very beautifully, pun intended, by D.C. Schindler. For example, in his book, the 3 books I've read so far, right? Plato's Critique of Impure Reason, Love and the Postmodern Predicament, and The Catholicity of Reason. So thank you very much, Rob, for your excellent question. I hope I answered it well.
Saruman believes that it is only a great power that can hold evil in check. But that is not what I have found. I found it is the small things, everyday deeds of ordinary folk that keeps the darkness at bay. Simple acts of kindness and love. Why, Bilbo Baggins? Perhaps it is because I'm afraid. It gives me courage.